everyone. Today I'm very excited to share this easy needle felting project that you can do with children, and it is very quick and easy to do and requires very little materials. So I would recommend this for ages 7 and up because you are using a needle and it's very easy to poke yourself. And yeah, so just a child that you feel is ready for a potential poke, but also is hopefully careful enough that they may avoid poking themselves. I will say that my children have both poked themselves, and so one of them is 3 and the other is 7. So it's very likely that it could happen. If you don't feel that is right for your child, then you may want to do a different craft with them. So these are just fun little shapes that you can make using any cookie cutter that you have in the home. I will say that the cookie cutters that have more ridges, let's see if you can see that, so like little tiny spaces that you have to reach within, these can be a lot more difficult to get the desired shape because you have to really work the felt into those tiny little areas. So my favorite cutters have been, cookie cutters have been the ones that just have very wide open spaces. So what you'll need is a cookie cutter. You'll also need some type of needle felting pad. There are many that you can get. This is a Wool Buddy mat, and I absolutely love that mat. If it's something you fall in love with and want to do a lot of needle felting, this is certainly one you can use. I also have this just round mat. I've got this. There's all sorts. There's even just this like foam block. So if you have any foam in the house, you can use that as well. But I am going to use this mat here. And I'm going to show you today how to do this sweet little flower. And the last thing you'll need is some roving. So actually any wool works. I also have a lot of this wool that has not been carded that you can get often a lot cheaper than the carded material or the carded wool. So you can use either. So for this beautiful little butterfly, we did this uncarded wool. The ducky was also the same material. And this is with roving, so it's a little bit softer of a texture. I'm sure that the type of sheep also made it softer as well. But again, I don't think it really matters what kind of wool you use. So just get any wool, and to pull it apart, you're going to grab the edge of the wool here and pull, I don't know, about that far away from it gently, and the hairs will sort of pull out very, very softly, and you can't force it. So like if you go close, it will not pull apart. So that's one of the hardest things to teach the child, is just how to pull it apart. And of course you can do this for them, but I do think it's a great sensory activity for them to be involved in this part of the process. So once you have a little decent pile of wool, I just like to kind of, I don't know, fluff it up a bit. You don't have to, but I am going to. And of course you could just, if you left it the other way, it would just create a different texture and look for your felted object, but there is no right and wrong. So just play with it and have fun. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of start working the edges of the cookie cutter first, just to make sure that I've got wool sticking down into the far reaches of the cookie cutter. And then I'll go through in the middle and continue felting in the corners. And when you're doing this with your child, one thing to model is working very slowly and with care and attention to where you put the needle. Never taking your eyes off the project, and really going, slow, because your child will definitely need practice doing this, depending on where they're at with their motor skills, to avoid poking themselves. Make sure that they know the needle needs to go up and down only. No sideways. Obviously the cookie cutter's around the side, but I have had kids try to poke the bottom, and that lends itself to getting pricked very easily. So I always am sure to let them know to only use the needle in an upward and downward motion. And I ask them to keep their eyes on their projects and to go very slow until they feel comfortable, a little more comfortable with the needle. It might be good to have Band-Aids on hand in case someone does get poked, because children always seem to feel a lot better and recover a lot quicker if they have a Band-Aid to help that process along. So that is something else I like to bring along when I do these crafts with children. Once you feel like you've got a pretty good shape holding inside the cookie cutter, you can take the cookie cutter off and you can peel it off your pad and flip it around. And then you'll do the other side. Now at this point, when you felted both sides, you have the option of adding more wool. If you don't feel it's thick enough, you can always add another layer and felt that second layer on top. It doesn't really matter how thick the project is. Every project will look different. It just depends on how long the attention span of your child is, or of the student. If you feel like they can endure a longer project, then you're welcome to make their object thicker by adding more wool. Or if you think they're probably going to need to end the project soon, then you can just keep it that first level of thickness that you started with. So I'm going to pull it off again, and I'm going to just give a little more shape on this side. I'm trying not to go as far into the mat. I'm actually just barely poking along the top of the flower, so that when I peel it up this time, it won't pull so many of the hairs off the bottom of my project. So I'm just kind of working the top layer a little bit here. And then I've got a good enough shape that I can show you the next step. You can work this as much and as long as you need to or want to. You can also clean up a child's project a little by picking it up. And this is where you poke yourself. So don't let them do this. But you can certainly shape it up a little by taking it out and working in the ends just a little. Again, so easy to poke yourself. So be very careful. Now you'll get your, whatever color you want the center of your flower to be, and do the same thing. Just kind of get a wispy bundle of wool. It's so pretty. And ball it up and put it right in the center. And give it, this might be something you do for your child, at least to kind of pin it down. Let them ball it up, because it's such a great activity for them. You know, it helps them get closer to the wool and the way it works. But then maybe, depending on their age, you can kind of pin it in place by doing a few pokes yourself in the middle, and then let them finish the project. The thing I love about this project is it doesn't have to be perfect. The child's imagination really soars with any project they make or craft they do. They can really see what they're creating and go home very satisfied with the way it looks. So trying not to get caught in perfection as a teacher or a parent can really lead to a lot more joy for the child, and that's really what we're aiming for. So there's no such thing as perfect. Enjoy the process with your child or your student, and know that it doesn't have to be a perfect round circle, and that we're just playing here and having fun. And then your child can go home with a beautiful flower or animal. If they created an animal, I'll often ask them, what's its name? And they give it a name, and it just, becomes such a special thing for them. And I love wool because it's so soft and fun and textural, to play with. And often I'll tell a story to the child first that, talks about sheep or wool or, something that connects them to their project, to wool. And I actually had one kid ask me, well, how do you get blue wool if there are no blue sheep? And I thought that was a very wise question. And, he ended up coming up with the answer on his own. He's like, oh, do you dye it? And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun and a great way to connect children to their creativity and to the earth through using natural natural materials. So, yeah, enjoy the craft. I would love to see what you create. I had some other ideas for this. You can make a little keychain or maybe a charm for a backpack for all of those back to school kids. So many fun things you can turn this into. And I would love to see what you create. So if you want to, please do share your magic with me by tagging at the Whimsical Warbler so that I can see what you've created and we can all share together. Thank you so much.